The fight against polio continues. Public servants called to improve performance. And teams geared up for start of NSL.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Friday's news. The fight of polio is not yet complete, says Health Secretary Pasco Kase. Despite the polio campaign achieving a 97% coverage rate of the country, there have been 26 confirmed cases of polio in the country, with the last case being an 11-month-old infant from Engaram in East Sepik. Michelle Stephen with the details.
Due to Papua New Guinea's geographical location, there were low coverage rates in most areas. Before the polio outbreak, the country's immunization coverage was very low, ranging between 46% to 69% between 2012 and 2017. This was because of poor management and poor surveillance. Health Secretary Pasco Kase says all provinces have to cooperate, not just for the polio campaign, but also for the routine immunization activities.
We need parents, caregivers, and everyone responsible, adults, to ensure that all targeted children receive their immunization. One of the biggest challenges we face in the campaign was immunizing children below the age of 1 year. To address these issues and to ensure greater coverage, the National Department of Health with its partner is considering sending people to house to house and at market stalls to give vaccinations.
The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund representative, David McLaughlin, says UNICEF's main aim is to make Papua New Guinea polio-free again.
In the fight against polio, UNICEF remains totally committed to the children of this country and are working with all the partners in the OH and the WHO to ensure Papua New Guinea is really declared polio-free again, and we will get to that. Through the generous support of our donors, UNICEF has procured 14.4 million doses to date of oral polio vaccine to meet all the demands of all the supplementary immunisation activities to date.
World Health Organization representative Dr. Luo Dapeng says the ongoing campaign has seen strong partnership formed and much support to date, but it still requires additional sources, and any support is welcome from current and new partners.
Despite the success of our past 6 months since health emergency was declared on the 26th of June 2018, our work not finished yet. In fact, we can say our work just started also today.
As the Health Secretary has announced, the first round of mass immunizations for this year is scheduled for February 18th. Michelle Stephen, National EMTV News.
The Central Disaster Committee has launched the medical supply distribution plan today. This plan includes the distribution of 92 cartons of medical supplies from the area medical supplies to aid posts and health centers in the 5 districts affected by the recent disaster.
After assessments were done by the disaster team, the committee is now looking at distributing supplies to the affected areas. With 92 cartons of medical supplies from the area medical supplies, distributions to the most affected areas aid posts and health centers begins today, starting with Rigo. Distributions will continue this weekend to the other affected districts in the province as well.
At first, foremost this afternoon, we will be delivering medical supplies to Rigo, the coast and inland along the highway, and to Abau and Kairuku. We will cover Iri tomorrow and Golela at a later date.
These medical supplies include antibiotics for waterborne diseases such as typhoid and cholera. Mosquito nets will also be distributed. Business houses and other organizations are also coming forward to help with supplements for the affected areas.
Confirm stakeholders. UNICEF has shown their support. The detail will be released later. Rotary Against Malaria will be covering distribution of mosquito nets into Kairuku, into Iri, Kairuku, and Rigo coastlines. We have confirmation from British Industries will be donating their 20 gallon and 200 liters water containers. Paradise Food will be supporting us with 100 cartons of biscuits.
Acting Provincial Administrator Peter Simbakua also told MTV that an education team is also conducting an audit on infrastructures in schools that were affected by the disaster. The medical supplies will be transported by the emergency response team and the Central Police. Patricia Keamo, National MTV News.
The local level government election set for April will go ahead, says the Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. PM O'Neill was responding to a question raised by Governor for West New Britain, Sasindran Mutuvel, in Parliament. The Prime Minister made it clear that there will be no delay as all outstanding pays for LLG councillors have been fully paid.
This week in Parliament, West New Britain Governor Sasindran Mutuvel asked Prime Minister Peter O'Neill to clarify the dates for the upcoming local level government elections, as well as how council presidents would be elected.
That LLG election will not be further delayed and it will be conducted in this year 2019. If LLG election are going to be conducted, then who will be responsible? Will it be PNG Electoral Commission or Provincial Affairs or the provincial governments to conduct this LLG election?
The Prime Minister assuring members of Parliament that the LLG elections would go ahead this year.
12 months is long enough, and only because of possible disruptions to the general elections that was delayed. But I can assure the good governor and all the honourable members of this House that it is important that people choose their councillors and the council presidents, and therefore the elections will be conducted in April, and I understand the Minister for Provincial and Local Level Government will issue the writ very shortly.
Mr. O'Neill added that the Electoral Commission would consult the provincial governments on the elections of council presidents.
It will be conducted by the Electoral Commissioner and, of course, supported by the Provincial Affairs Ministry Department. And it will be the Electoral Commissioner's responsibility to making sure that these elections are conducted smoothly right across the country. It's the choice of the provincial governments whether they want the LLG presidents to be elected by the people, or they want to be the presidents to be elected by the councillors. That is the choice. Myself, personally, I would prefer that be the case.
Merabatulo, National MTV News.
Public Service Minister Elias Kapavore, together with Minister for Community Development, Youth and Religion, Soroi Eoe, led the public service dedication in Port Moresby today. The service, broadcast live on MTV, marked the beginning of official duties for public servants as they prepare to carry out their duties this year.
The public service dedication was held today to begin the annual activities of employees within the public sector. Chief Secretary Isaac Lupari provided the opening address, challenging members of the public service to perform their duties to the best of their abilities, a point echoed by Public Service Minister Elias Kapavore when providing the keynote address. According to Minister Kapavore, it was important that the entire public service give their best to serve the people of Papua New Guinea at the national, provincial and, more importantly, the district level.
We must have an efficient, ethical and values-based public servants. TPM, my department, is embarked on stressing the need to fully implement Section 26 of the Public Service Management Act. That is establishing the key performance indicators of all the departmental heads. Contracts are now performance-based. And it has to be done also for the deputies, the downliners, to everyone in the organization. Because I believe anything that is measured will be done. Anything that is measured gets done.
For Minister responsible for Community Development, Women, Youth and Religion, Soroi Eoe, he acknowledged the efforts made to start the year off on the right note in preparation for another busy year ahead.
But sometimes we lose focus. But until and unless you know God personally, then you know what your responsibilities are. Government this year and last years have been looking at focusing on district delivery program. And that's, all of you have been major part of that drive, which is good, because that's where 80% of our people live.
Today's dedication service was broadcast live on MTV. Mirabatulo, National MTV News.
This is Friday's news. Don't go away. We'll return with more of the day's stories after the break. Welcome back. Reports of a 30% increase for tuition fees for students at the University of Papua New Guinea have been dismissed by the newly appointed Chancellor. This means students will be paying the same amount of 2,939 kina for tuition fee this year.
The 30% increase in the compulsory tuition fee is an addition of 1,303 kina from 2018 levels of 2,939 kina. These fees were recently approved by the former UPNG Council with specific instructions that 75% of the fees for new and continuing students be paid before February 8th and 11th respectively. This 30% increase was separate from the boarding and lodging fees, which are estimated to be over 7,000 kina for first year right through to final year students. While the increase has been described by some parents and guardians as expensive, the former UPNG Council said the increase was to allow the university to continue to provide teaching and learning services in 2019 and to address the widening gap between the university's income and expenditure. The university also announced an additional fee of 530 kina for students who decide to take more than 4 courses in each semester. The 2019 academic year for UPNG will resume in late February. Patricia Keamo, National MTV News.
A decision by the Mendi Land Court in 2006 has been squashed by the Waigani National Court yesterday in Port Moresby. Presiding Judge Justice Thompson ruled that the land was enormously given to another clan in the PDL2 area in Southern Highlands. Following the decision, Chairman of Nano Webo clan, Tony Kila, says the decision is welcoming after almost 22 years in court.
The decision yesterday was overwhelming for customary landowners in the PDL2 area of Kutubu. Speaking after the court decision, Chairman Tony Kila says the Lapi Lapi clan fought for the truth despite losing the title for their 8.6-kilometer portion of land.
If you are one of those fighting up there in Papua New Guinea, well, you have to always believe that the truth will one day come. Whether it is 10 years, even 20 years, 30 years, we've waited for 22 years. And then finally the truth that has arrived.
The land disputed is along the Mount Balame range. The dispute is between Nanowebo or Lapi Lapi clan and the Yumbi clan. Despite signing a deed of release in 2001, the matter returned to court in 2006.
The courts today ruled that the magistrate sitting in that particular court at the Provincial Land Court in 2006 made an error and ruled on land that belonged to Lapi Lapi in PDL2 and declared that land unlawfully and illegally and by error of law to Mark Philip in PDL 6.
David Yahweh, a PDL2 spokesperson, says his people did not give up easily after losing the land in a court decision but pushed for the truth. He says the piece of land is significant to his people.
Now, me labi me to right, me to angelo isla, giran emlo labi. Moran Huli, Moran Faso and me. Moran Huli, and Tony Kila, Mark Philip, Andrew Alape.
During the court process, benefits to the PDL2 area have been halted. For the Lapi Lapi clan, the court victory will now see the benefits released.
With lights, you can run over mountains, you can swim the lake, you see, and you can even fly over. But it will not defeat the truth.
The matter was in court for nearly 22 years. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
A groundbreaking ceremony was held this week for construction to begin on the Tauranga bypass. This project, which will connect the main highway to Tauranga Beach, is an extension from Stage 1 and 2 of the Tauranga Road project. Amanda Rimor with the details.
The Tauranga bypass will soon see a new lease of life, with the current dusty and pothole-infested road to be constructed into a stylish four-lane road expected to cost around 25 million kina and have a lifespan of 20 years. It is expected to be completed by the end of this year. Member for Mosby South Justin Tachenko has called on residents to work alongside the contractor to ensure it is completed on time.
But otherwise, to all of you here, we need to work together as a team. We need to make things happen. And that's why you've got a good team in NCDC.
Despite initial delays in funding, NCDC is set to go ahead with this project for this year. Governor Pakop saying investments in the city are for the benefit of the entire nation as well.
The investment in our capital city is not just for the residents. It's an investment for our country. Everybody lives here. All the tribes and language group, they have families and relatives and Tamus and Nakis and what have you, they are here. The whole country. This City 2 is our capital city and is the gateway to Papua New Guinea. First impression is most important.
The new road construction will pave way for people in this area to also access of power and water.
We look forward to Gupta Road by come up. He can bring him service come to Plateau. Water will be connecting to, as the minister said, Antabla too. Because of APEC now, you mix him all. I can big power or well come now. Pam people go come. Now, triple country, Japan, Australia now. New Zealand will give him almost 1 million or something of power in Papua New Guinea.
When stressing on the greatness of the city in terms of infrastructure development, Governor Pakop urged people to take ownership of their city and look after Port Moresby now and in the future.
It has to be a dynamic city. It has to be an amazing city. Business by growth. The opportunities will be created once we make this city a greater city. And critical to that is this infrastructure development. Critical to that too, and passing the attitude for union people. You look at him city, clean him city.
Amanda Rimu, National EMTV News.
Formerly known as Oyster Bay, Tuna Bay, known for its long-tail tuna fish spawning, has been declared a national conservation site by the Marine Protection Law under the Department of Environment and Conservation. Cadet journalist Tamara Pia Agavi with the details.
Speaking during the groundbreaking ceremony of the Tauranga Bypass project yesterday, Governor Powes Pakop said that Tuna Bay Marine Conservation will be made a national site for the regeneration of marine wildlife. Tuna Bay is protected under Marine Protection Law under the Department of Environment and Conservation, or SEPA.
This Tuna Bay here, submission has come to our board already. We are going to declare it a conservation area. I want landowners to cooperate. It's important for all of us. Important for you all coastal people who depend on marine life. This bay here sustains the yellowfin tuna. It is their place where they come and breed. So we can't allow development of any type to take place here at Tuna Bay.
The long-tailed tuna fish spawn every 6 months, go to the Tuna Bay area to lay eggs. This also attracts other marine animals to the bay because of its organic biodiversity. Due to development practices and also urbanization taking place in the Bootless Bay area and surrounding areas, this has posed threat to the marine wildlife. Governor Pakop also said that a non-profitable organization is working closely with them.
We are just looking at the funding for it. We don't have a conservation power. That's the it belongs to the, SEPA. But we have fiscal planning powers, and we can make decision under fiscal planning that this place must be reserved for conservation purpose. So we'll use our fiscal planning powers to make the decision. And of course, we have to enforce it. So that the tuna can continue to come, we can protect this part of the Budless Bay and make it a conservation area.
The Prime Minister has also made a commitment to the international community during last year's APEC meeting that this part of the city will be set aside for marine conservation. Tamara Pia Agavi, National MTV News.
The Bank of PNG held a press conference today following the public's concerns over the current kina exchange rate and foreign exchange market. Bank of PNG Governor Loy Bakani stated that due to a better foreign exchange inflow in 2018, the imbalance in the foreign exchange market has been greatly reduced.
The central bank today indicated that the foreign exchange market had benefited from the government's external borrowings in 2018, which included the Credit Suisse third tranche loan, the sovereign bond, ADB and World Bank budget support loans, as well as inflows from mineral and petroleum taxes, royalties and dividends. Alleviating the pressure on the forex market, though not completely cleared, total outstanding orders declined to 1.5 billion kina in December 2018 from a staggering 2.5 billion in 2017. And from the total outstanding orders, the backlog has declined to 0.4 billion kina in 2018 from 1.4 billion kina in 2017. This, according to Mr. Bakani, reflects the gradual normalization of the forex market.
Now, what will happen is that if after all the approvals are done, then they will start to go into construction. And that's the same effect that like the first LNG, there'll be a lot of foreigners coming in. And obviously, the situation that we faced over the last few years will turn around. You will have a lot more supply now, and it will be more than sufficient to meet the demand for that. Orders will be obviously, normalized.
Governor Bakani pointed out that the stability achieved so far should provide some confidence to the market. When this reporter asked about an approximate timeline for the foreign exchange market to normalize, Governor Bakani stated that it really depends on the finalization of discussions and construction period of the Papua LNG project. He estimated that the market will most likely return to normal by the end of 2019.
Going back to the point of the inflows, there will be a lot of inflows coming in for US dollars. It will also have a spin-off effect on people, real estate business here, like we saw in 2012 during the construction phase. There'll be a lot of new companies, emerging up here and also in the Gulf. And then that's likewise for the Wafi Golpu. Yeah. The effect on the exchange rate also will be reversal. There'll be a lot more supply. There's a lot more supply, then the kina will start to strengthen, appreciate it.
Leanne Jarari, National MTV News.
On Wednesday, Eastern Highlands Governor Peter Numu crossed over and joined the opposition. This was just one MP out of the predicted 8 the opposition said would cross over. And as the debates continued out of Parliament, Alotau descended into chaos as armed criminals burned 7 police houses and killed a provincial government lawyer. Here is Mary Batulo with tonight's Week in Review.
From the temporary closure and reopening of the Wafi Golpu project site, the country's attention shifted from Morobe province to the chambers of Parliament as the opposition discussed the possible vote of no confidence prior to this week's sitting. The predictions were already on the wall for Eastern Highlands Governor Peter Numu. Social media political prophets were predicting some movement but could not say how much. Numu had previously expressed his dissatisfaction on various issues. But when the Prime Minister recently visited Goroka, Numu was noticeably absent. Senior members of the opposition, also in Goroka, flew out of town when the Prime Minister's entourage arrived. The Prime Minister responded with public statements targeting the opposition's vote of no confidence push.
You can judge me lo 2022. Now when I'm totok lo man pawang green around about. There's la work by me member bobokim lo floor of Parliament, so you stop busy.
So when they went to Port Moresby, Governor Numu stood up asked several questions, including one about outstanding coffee stabilisation funds, and then walked out of Parliament as a member of the opposition.
Mr. Acting Speaker, I think as a young governor, I see that my people of Eastern Highlands have no future in this government. On that basis, I'm notifying this Speaker that I'm taking the other side of the House.
Very good.
As the young governor.
Thank you. Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker.
It's still early days. Time is short. The People's National Congress is plugging the gaps. The opposition responding with statements. The government coalition members are responding with counter-statements. Pangu Party, made up of predominantly Morobean MPs, say they will stick with government.
If they talk about Pangu Party, I'd be very surprised, because what the opposition is doing now is that they're using member for Huon Gulf is in the opposition to call members in Pangu. And I believe that when opposition starts doing that, without communicating with party leaders, they are very desperate, and they are talking to our members.
One thing they did agree on was the Radiation Safety and Control Act 2018, which governs the use of radioactive materials, including cobalt, in the treatment of cancer. ECP Governor Alan Bird remarked later on Facebook that MPs passed the bill within 30 minutes. The passage of the bill now paves way for the Health Department and hospitals to import new radiotherapy equipment for cancer treatment. While the Deputy Prime Minister and Alatau MP Charles Abel was in Parliament this week, Alatau Open descended into chaos for 36 hours at least.
And the way they shut down Alatau town, it's essentially terrorism. The community are terrified. All the people came out of the settlements. They were all on the Oval. They went down to the transit centre. But you're going to be held to account, and you can see what's the end result can be if you continue in this way. But you will face the law. You will face justice, because we're not going to let this country be ruled by such thugs. But I appeal to them to think about what they're doing and lay down their arms and come forward, for the sake of the wider community and peace.
Merabatulo, National EMTV News.
You're at Friday's News. When we come back, we'll take a look at stories making headlines overseas. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, Australia's heat wave has moved to Melbourne. Yesterday, the extreme temperatures made Adelaide the warmest city on Earth. And today, there are hampering Kiwi firefighters called on by Tasmania for help.
Once again, Australia's cooking in its second heat wave in just a week. Today, it was Melbourne's turn to swelter, the city's hottest day in a decade, forecast to reach 44 degrees. It was too much for Melbourne's electricity grid. 100,000 homes lost power. And while for some, the heat is welcome.
Yeah, I reckon I might just sleep here tonight, I reckon. Seems like a nice place to be.
Many others are on edge. The state hasn't seen a day this hot since Black Saturday in 2009, when fire killed 173 people. Fierce bushfires are already burning across Tasmania, with 2 homes lost. 29 blazes are out of control on the worst fire day of the season. Residents of Zeehan ordered to leave. And 21 Kiwis are on the front line in conditions much tougher than those at home.
The fire behaviour is more extreme. It's not something we naturally get at home too often, but it's all the emergency planning is right on key.
The mass of hot air brewed in the outback hit South Australia yesterday. A record 46.6 degrees in Adelaide, Port Augusta 49.5. As the mercury rose, beer prices tumbled. One pub gave them away for free.
How more Aussie can you get than that, bro?
But others suffered from heat exhaustion. There were 39 call-outs by 2 p.m. The suburb of Paradise anything but, as power cuts struck on its hottest day.
Obviously got no aircon, I'm sweating, so yeah, it's pretty tough.
And the tough, long summer's far from over. December was Australia's hottest on record, and soon January could be the same.
Washington has ordered non-essential U.S. embassy personnel home from Venezuela and has said all U.S. citizens should consider leaving. The U.S. and Britain have decided to back the leader of the country's opposition, while China and Russia are still endorsing its president.
Venezuela's military leaders pledged their support to President Nicolás Maduro today, a day after the U.S. recognized 35-year-old opposition leader Juan Guaidó as Venezuela's interim president. There is no doubt Trump is trying to organize a coup d'etat in the country, Maduro said. Today, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo pledged $20 million in humanitarian aid to the new government.
The tyranny of the now defunct Maduro regime has for far too long, choked the country and its citizens.
The streets in the capital, Caracas, are quieter today after 3 days of deadly protests. At least 14 were killed in clashes with security forces, according to a Venezuelan human rights group.
I mean, things are still dangerous.
Claudia Smolansky is a journalist in Caracas.
As I told you, I think people that are not scared anymore because they are tired and they want to reclaim their rights.
CBS News traveled to Caracas in 2017 during protests over Maduro's plans to rewrite the country's constitution.
¿Qué dices tú de esta elección? What do you say about this election?
Fraude constitucional.
Fraud. Constitutional fraud.
We also witnessed some of the more than 2 million Venezuelans who have fled to surrounding countries since 2015. 1 million alone live here in neighboring Colombia. Pompeo has called for the protection of Guaidó. Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin called to express his support for Maduro.
Don't go away. We'll bring you more sporting updates in Trukai Sports up next.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Boxing is a sport that keeps people fit and motivated, and for some, boxing is for fitness rather than as a full-time sport. There is a young Papua New Guinean singer who is also a boxer. Fiddler Sakina with this story.
It's the same person, but this time he's reining in punches and not lyrics. We spotted a young singer skipping the beat and throwing punches as a sparring partner to pro boxer Junior Kaukoraka. Brian Kepi, known as Kid Nisian, had long before strapped on the gloves before scintillating fans with his vocals.
I usually started boxing before singing, but then I've been doing it in secret because I just want to do it for fitness.
Kepi all in on being multi-talented.
Besides music, it's also good to, do cardio and martial arts because, we can't just, be lazy all the time, Besides music, we got to keep fit too,
He also has a few amateur fights under his belt.
But I also had some amateur fights back in 2013. So I was like the 56 kg for West Taraka PNG Power, yeah.
He has been quietly boxing in his free time at Jamie Pang's gym.
I've been doing it under the radar. So my big brother, Junior Lakar, has been the one that's coaching me, him and Douglas Wallow.
But does Kepi have potential as a boxer? Could Kepi be a pro? Strong, encouraging words by his coach, Junior Kaukoraka.
Strong lamang yung boxing na side talent long tu katol silakan so ewan blakan no sem flexible mangi flexor mangi.
But aside from hurting people in the ring, Kepi is soon to release more soothing and serenading music to his fans.
So yeah, I've been doing a few tracks so far. There's some new ones coming out this year. So all the fans out there, stay tuned. And yeah, I hope you all like the new songs.
Sideli Sukina, National EMTV Sports.
The Southern Strikers Football Club has announced its final 30-man squad. Most of the players are students who play in PMSA and Schools Football Association. The team's youngest player is a 16-year-old from Central Province. Suli Suli with the details.
During the team's announcement yesterday, Southern Strikers Football Club introduced their players. Amongst the 30 players was 16-year-old Joshua Uro. His journey from PMSA and making it into Southern Strikers Football Club has been very tough. He says his efforts have not been wasted.
I saw like they were more competitive than PMSA, so like I had to lift my standard up to play. So like right now I ended up in the final 30 for the squad. Yeah, I'm proud of myself. Like I put much effort and then the effort paid off being part of the Southern Strikers team.
Uro, who comes from Central Province, says being the youngest player, it will be a very challenging competition for him in the National Soccer League.
It will be tough for me because I'll be going against some of the toughest teams, and like seeing me as the youngest, like I don't put myself as the youngest, but I see myself as one of the biggest boys in the team.
His aim is to represent PNG in the couples jersey in the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
My dream is to represent Papua New Guinea, and my aim is to take the PNG couples team to FIFA 2026.
Uro is currently attending Port Moresby Grammar School whilst being in the team. His message to young footballers is not to be afraid of making mistakes and keep striving to be the best in any code of sports. Suli Suli, National EMTV Sports.
Pom United captain Junior Suso says they are excited and ready for the NSL season. Junior is one of the team's most experienced players.
The team is psyched and ready for the tournament, which kicks off tomorrow. They have played 3 trial matches and have worked on errors picked up during those games.
Yes, we play plenty weakness. We play lining mate or defense play. See, we play no started lo or latex play. But since we go through the slam, lining good.
Sasso has played in the National Soccer League competition for 10 years. He last played with Momase FC.
Nami logra mi 2 months experience. I think we play plenty game among the voice. The 10 team now so far. 10 year, I'm number 10 year Lumina take part lo. NSL season.
He says playing alongside some young players is exciting and is looking forward to see how these players perform throughout the tournament.
I'm going to line in plan, they could present in. Oled pressure go simol. Cholos mi lo totok lo what them game strong lo. Oled them small. Go catch up area straight.
They play their first match against Eastern Stars at the PNG Football Stadium at 1 p.m. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
You at Trukai Sports will go for a break now, but have more sporting updates when we return. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The Southern Strikers Football Club have officially launched their 2019 NSL campaign. The launching included presentation of jerseys, the official introduction of players, and the appointment of the team's captains. Suli Suli with this report.
The Schools Football Association Port Moresby-owned franchise club comprises of mostly young players. Southern Strikers Football Club is the youngest team in NSL, with most of the players ranging from 16 to 23 years old. Assistant coach Philemon Tamari says the focus is on young players who have the potential in raising the standard of football in the country.
So we look to bring some very exciting talents on the field to showcase what we are doing. But what we are doing, we believe will go a long way, because we look at the prospects of trying to get football to new and greater heights in the country. The focus must be on the younger players.
With most players being students in secondary and tertiary institutions, the club will face some of the biggest teams like Ekari in the Southern Confederate of NSL. Schools Football Association Chairman John Mogi says it is the players' commitment and determination that will bring positive results.
If you're focused, if you are determined, and if you have the discipline in you, you will see the results on the field.
Attending the launching last night was Vice Minister for Sports Wesley Raminai.
For young players out there, it's a good opportunity for you guys, but you've got a few more years to play. It just gives you an opportunity to play at that very competitive soccer, to play against our national players and some really good players around the country. And if you can hone your skills and learn as much as you get at this age, I think you can become really good players in the future.
Strikers' official sponsor PNG Coolair presented the Omen away jerseys to the club. Operations manager Alan Swan said the company will continue to support the club in building the younger generation of footballers. He encouraged the players to put in more effort and support each other during the NSL season.
When your heart's pumping, you're tired, you're fatigued, and you've got one last run in you, that'll win the game. And that's where the heart comes in. You've got to play for each other. And I've seen teams do it. And you have that ability. You have youth on your side.
The Southern Strikers Football Club's second successive participation comes with challenge, says coach Margaret Aka. Aka thanked the Strikers management for the appointment and urged the 30 players, of whom 27 are new players, to work together under her leadership.
But I'm happy to have new kids on the block now with me, and I'm going to work with them to go forward. My reason for taking this young team, because I believe in development and I look to the future. That's why I said yes to this team.
The team will represent 50 member schools throughout NCD with over 6,000 plus registered school footballers. Suli, National EMTV Sports.
FC Bougainville is a national soccer league team that bears the name of the autonomous region but is based out of Port Moresby. Not new to soccer, the NSL club stems from a Port Moresby Soccer Association club and might have the advantage against some of the other Southern Conference teams.
FC Bougainville. For most, the name would suggest the obvious: dark-skinned players in training. But that's not the case. It's a team made up of players across Papua New Guinea who now represent Bougainville. For those that follow Port Moresby Soccer Association, or PMSA, you would know the Munkas Club, reigning champions in the PMSA National Premier League competition and back-to-back champions 3 years running. This is them as an NSL team. Munkas Club has its roots from Bougainville, thus the name FC Bougainville.
Our club Munkas in the Port Moresby Association makes up the core of the team. So to help market players from Bougainville, we decided to use the name Bougainville. So at least we can get some players from Bougainville to come and trial out in the National Soccer League.
Sticking to their word, 3 boys from Bougainville have been flown in to have a chance to play in the NSL.
We have 3 here. We wanted a couple more, about 3 more. However, that hasn't worked out up to now.
The Munkas Club have been planning for their own team in the NSL for quite some time.
We worked on this for the last 3 years, and having a team now in there, everybody's excited and happy that we finally have a team in NSL.
Quite an advantage for these young men in FC Bougainville, with most of the clubs in the Southern Conference having players from the PMSA competition.
That's something that's in our favor currently, knowing how other teams, the players of the other teams perform.
Training wound down yesterday with their opening match against Giants, Ekari United, at 3 p.m. tomorrow at the PNG Football Stadium. They just need to stick to their game plan, says coach David Passam.
Ekari is Ekari. They've set the benchmark for football in PNG. As long as we stick to what we plan to do, we should have a good game this weekend. Yeah.
No sponsors yet, with the club running their own affairs, but they are optimistic that their performance will grab sponsors. But one thing is for certain, Bougainville is well represented by these young men. Fideli Sukina, National EMTV Sports.
Now that story wraps up Trukai Sports. We'll be back with the weather details shortly.
True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast in the southern region. In Port Moresby, cloudy weather with some showers. In Popondetta, Kerema and Daru, rain showers, and cloudy weather in Alotau.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's the news, sport and weather for Friday, 25th of January 2019. From the entire news team around the country, have a safe weekend. Pleasant viewing. Good night.